All right, ladies and gentlemen. The puck has dropped, as it were, and we are going to call our meeting to order at March 15th, 6:31. All right, do we have any additions to the agenda before I do the announcements?
One addition in closed session, Mayor Green.
One.
Personnel 1724. 24.
All right, that's going to go to Corinne right there. And that means when it gets to Craig, that shoot there. All right, the town of Diamond Valley acknowledges the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which include the Blackfoot Confederacy members Siksika, Kainai, and Kainai First Nations, Stoney Nakoda, Bearspaw, Chiniki, Wesley First Nations, and many of Tsuut'ina First Nation people who call Métis Region 3 their home, and all of those that make Treaty 7 lands their home. I would also like to acknowledge staff for doing great work. It's very, very troubled times. No, I do want to acknowledge staff though. It's been, what are we, 6 weeks into amalgamation, 12, 10, we're 10, 2.5 months. And we've had fantastic response from the public all the way through. And Facebook has really shined the light on it, I must say. So just wanted to say, you know, again, good job. We know you guys are under a lot of pressure to do a lot of stuff, but it's very visible. So thank you. All right, I have one addition for in camera under section 1724. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda, please? I get Jonathan beats you to it. All in favor? Thank you. I have 3.1 minutes of the regular meeting held March 1st, 2023. Hazel, gives me that. Any errors, omissions, Hazel? No. Okay. Sure. Excellent. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? That is adopted. Thank you. And minutes of March 7th, 2023, Council Committee of the Whole, Cindy, Councilor Ball. She gives us a motion for that. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll go all in favor for that one. That is carried. Thank you. Public hearings, we have none. And question period. Question period is a 15-minute section of time for the public to come in and ask questions of council, administration, points of clarity, or genuine inquiry. You can email, fax, phone, talk to a councillor, however you wish to get a question in. We appreciate it, and we'll take them as soon as we can get them so we can get some background work done and get some answers. Rules for the question period are on board. And I do know we have one question for sure. Do we have more than one?
Just the one, Mayor.
Just the one. And Jackie, you're in attendance. Would you like to read your question?
Yes.
Sure. Excellent. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to give a bit of background. Okay. So before I heard that the town of Diamond Valley was holding a strategic planning session in February in Calgary. I looked for information about the session on the town's website, but found none. Mid-February, I emailed Diamond Valley administration who advised during the council orientations on December 9th, 2022, the new council directed administration to set up a workshop in early 2023. I went back through agendas, minutes, calendars, and the website and found nothing for the December 9th meeting, nor the strategic planning session. I am unaware of any guidelines covering this council's actions prior to their taking their oath of office, specifically attending a December 9th orientation meeting and directing administration, probably the then CAO of Turner Valley, to organize a strategic planning session at an off-site location. Everyone on this council attended the November election forum and indicated they supported transparency and fiscal responsibility. Through this process, I can't see transparency nor fiscal responsibility, therefore my question. Please explain and justify this council's lack of transparency in its decision to have your strategic planning session in Calgary, thereby incurring unnecessary expenses and not supporting local business.
All right. Thank you. And I'm just going to read from the response I sent you first, and then I have some further background. All right. So we had our December 9th strategic planning session. So after the election, training, orientation. We had our orientation on December 9th. And at that time, we had Ian McCormick of Strategic Planning. And that's a MGA allotted requirement that we have to do it. The number on that is $5,200. So we looked at that as all previously elected officials, and we said, we don't need this specific training. What we need is our strategic plan getting ahead of the game. Normally, a new council takes 6 months to a year even to get a strategic plan even started. So we wanted to get ahead of the ball on that, utilize that $5,200, which would have been just money down the tube for an orientation of councillors who already know the job requirements. So we utilized that and turned it into a pre-strategic planning session and orientation. So we touched on some of the MGA requirements, and then we focused on our strategic planning. That actually saved us thousands of dollars. The original strategic planning cost was $12,000, so minus 52. You can do the math on that. You also asked for how much our hotel meals and conference and accommodation cost. The number on that was $4,800. And I think there's still some mileage that needs to come in, give or take $1. The desire to not support local is not that at all. In Turner Valley right now, the golf course isn't actually open, so that's usually where we fold it from a Turner Valley perspective. I don't know if Black Diamond did, but we talked as a council about what we wanted to do, and we wanted to get off base, in other words, out of town, so that we can focus on the actual content of strategic plan. Now that might sound strange, but every other community that I've talked to and been part of constantly and continuously get out of town to hold strategic planning so that they can focus on the actual job in team building. Team building for us was very important. That's why we chose to go to the Grey Eagle, which was the cheapest of how many quotes? 6. So we went to tender for the conferencing for that, and we chose Grey Eagle because it was the cheapest, and it came in at 48, which is less than 52, which we previously put in. And for a team building exercise, I think it was fantastic use of money. I would do it again in a heartbeat. And yeah, that's it. We did not go to tender, to answer that question. We didn't go to tender because we saw that we were utilizing 5,200 to the good when we had our original orientation. Should we have made a motion about it? I'm going to say we probably definitely should have.
Yeah, and I think administration can take the hit on that one. Obviously, we should have brought that up after the amalgamation took place. So I think we can wear that one. That was a miss by us. So.
Yeah, but we should have probably followed up on that and said, no, we need to go to tender, even though we knew that with Ian McCormick, he did Black Diamond's previous strategic plan. He also did Turner Valley's previous strategic plan. So the comfort level on council was very good, knowing what we were going to get for the value versus the devil in the details of what you don't know just to save $1,000. We were pretty confident that we were getting good value for the dollar. So in the future, we're definitely going to make sure that we go to tender on anything of that nature. But I still feel very confident that we are well served by Ian, and it was would be some money. So, anything else from council to fill in any blanks there that I'm going to miss? Sean, administration, want to weigh in?
No, it was a strange time and rarely do you get that sort of separation between an election and a swearing in as well. So it was a very unique situation. Otherwise, we probably would have had that motion on the table for the next council meeting. But it was a challenging time, and we literally missed thinking that we needed to get a motion on the table. And Jackie asked the question. I have to say, I had the thought, yes. We did miss that, so I do appreciate her bringing that forward. We did our best through that process with everything that was going on, and that was a bit of a skip, but I do think the process was well endeavored, and I think it was fruitful, and I think that the cost was more than reasonable compared compared to other strategic planning sessions I've been involved with.
Thank you. And also, the people in attendance were just council and just the CA.
Correct.
All right. Follow up.
This is not a debate.
Sound good? All righty. Did you receive any questions by email?
No, I did not.
All righty. We will close question period, move on to delegation. 6.1, we have none, and 6.2, we have none. Bylaws, 7.1, public hearing decisions. We have none. 7.2, bylaws, freedom of information and protection of privacy bylaw 2023-09. John, I'll hand it over to you to stick in while I take it over.
Thanks, Mark Frame. So this is a requirement under the FOIP Act, and Ms. Brown actually put this very bylaw together, so I will have her introduce it, and certainly Ms. Staples, if she'd like to add anything to it, is certainly welcome.
Thank you, so much, Chairman Crane and Council. This is a housekeeping item. It's pretty basic across the board. Most municipalities have these in place. It wasn't a priority because, as you well know, it was a requirement that we had both municipalities have bylaws in place. This one was just an updated version, and yeah, it's required.
Deputy Mayor Bradley.
Motion
Yes, please.
that council give first reading to FOIP bylaw 2023-09 as presented.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a very technical piece. I've noticed, for instance, on Ms. Stickles' question, we use the acronym for FOIP with an extra P at the end of it. And then in our procedures bylaw, we have FOIP with an extra P added. But in our procedure bylaw and in our FOIP bylaw, we keep it as the 4-digit acronym. So just for consistency's sake throughout, just want to make sure that that's aligned. Because I believe it's the 4 acronym, right? That's what I found online when I was doing some researching. So.
All right. Any, Heather?
I just have one question, and it doesn't really refer to first reading. However, it's regarding the motion to appoint a council designate Sean Patience as CAO as head of FOIP for the town of Diamond Valley. I don't know that that is necessary, because if we look at section 207A of the MGA, it's laid out there that the CAO is the head of the municipality. And in the CAO bylaw section, my writing, 3.4, 3.1, it also lays out that the CAO is the head of the municipality. So I'm wondering, my question, of course, and in our FOIP bylaw, the new FOIP bylaw, section 3.1, the CAO is head of the municipality. So I'm not sure, why do we have to appoint and name this individual?
It's not a requirement. It's just a standard procedure that most municipalities use, especially if you have an acting CAO in place. This way, you're covered that this person is your CAO, who's the head of FOIP, and he can delegate. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's not a requirement. It's just usually it's.
Yeah.
I asked the same question.
Yeah, it just is everywhere that the CAO is the head of the municipality. It's in the MGA, it's in the FOIP Act, it's in our new FOIP Act, it's in our CAO bylaw. So I prefer just not to appoint.
Yeah.
Other than that, the bylaw looks really
I
good.
had suggested during formation of this. I don't like naming names in bylaws because then it becomes subject to change, right? So
Yeah.
CAO.
Yeah.
It's a title.
No, it's not named in the bylaw. So
No, I understand that.
yeah. So,
This is separate from the bylaw.
Yeah.
So it's process, right?
Yes, and a lot of bylaws, especially like if you look at peace officers and bylaw officers, you have to actually appoint the person. You can't just say
no,
the
I
position.
recognize that. Yes.
So
And that's the
it's a
designated
it's-
officer's bylaw as well.
It's a discretionary motion and it's a resolution, so you don't have to change your bylaw in any way, shape or form if you get a different CAO. You just reappoint and use the new person in that position.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have council give first reading by Deputy Mayor Kelly. Any comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I'll take a second.
I'll get second.
Heather, yes?
Yep, go ahead.
Council gives second reading to appoint bylaw 2023-09.
Thank you. Comments, straightforward. All in favor? Excellent, that's carried.
I'll give you a motion that council agreed to give third reading to appoint bylaw 2023-09 at this meeting.
Shouldn't it be to here? Yeah, I'm a stickler for that word. It should be for here. Yeah, it should be for here. So, yeah, if you could just change that
Agreed to
to,
hear third reading.
yes, that would be, thank you. All right. And as you all know, this has to be unanimous in order to go on to third. So seeing none, all in favor? Thank you, that is unanimous. And Hazel.
That council gives third and final reading to appoint bylaw 2023-09.
Thank you. Last chance. Any concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you, and that is. No, I think leave that as, leave it as 3.1 says it all. The CAO is designated. I'm comfortable. Thank you. Okay. All right. That is done.
Is everyone comfortable with that?
Oh, that was, I have never written down as a question. too, so.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. All right, moving on to 722, a records management bylaw 2023-10. I know Veronica said she was really excited about this one. Just kidding. Sean, lead us out again.
So here's another one, and this is, as we move forward through this, we're trying to prioritize a list of bylaws. This is the next in line. This is to do with record management and retention and disposition. This will guide our endeavors in terms of the maintaining of records, the disposal of records, etc., and the coordinating and keeping of records. So, Ms. Brown, Ms. Staples, would you like to add anything to that?
If I may, through the chair, just to give council a heads up. This is just the bylaw. I'm currently working on draft policies and procedures for handling the records and disposition and whatnot. So you will be seeing that in the very near future. I'm also working in, because COIP, IT security and records management all goes together. I'm working on all of those policies together so that we have policies in place for privacy breaches, for providing information, how to handle information requests, and like I said, the records retention and disposition procedures and policies.
Excellent. Thank you. Cindy.
That council give first reading to records management bylaw 2023-10.
All right. Any questions for Claire?
Is in the policy, it'll state like how many years a record must be kept and what sort of records must be permanent and,
That's correct.
okay. That will
And,
not
and,
be,
and how we store, where we store the whole 9 yards, and it'll cover all of those types of concerns and issues.
do you see going forward that you will go with a total electronic and get a different paper?
Eventually, some of the stuff you can't. There are permanent records that they want you to maintain paper copies. We will have both. We will have several mediums. So, for instance, for your bylaws, your meeting minutes, those are permanent records. We have to keep them for forever and a day, but we can keep them both paper and digital, so that it will all be covered in the procedures.
So it just has to be like with the water hearing, like that would be something you would have to keep permanently.
Correct.
Excellent. Heather,
So section 3, records retention 3.1D. To delegate and authorize further delegation of the authorities in this bylaw to any employee of the town in accordance with the town's CAO bylaw. What section? I looked at that and I couldn't figure out what section you're referring to here. And maybe perhaps we need to refer to a section here or not. In accordance with the town's CAO bylaw.
He has the ability to delegate any authorities to any employee. So for instance, just as an example.
It's just a blanket statement there.
Correct.
It's not.
That's correct. So you may have a FOIP coordinator, but you may have a clerk that works with a FOIP coordinator to actually, well, no, it's both, to actually put together the records and sort through everything. So it's just being able to have people in place to actually be able to provide information.
Okay, thank you. And then 3.2. So you're working on that policy. You're because we're going to pass this bylaw, but in accordance with record management policy and procedures. So that's kind of the timeline to match these up.
Well, right now we have policies in place. So if anything,
You'll refer back.
it goes back to those until we replace them.
Okay, and then 4.1. So, yeah, 4.1, all official records excluding transitionary records may be disposed of in accordance with the retention schedule established by the CAO. Won't that be in accordance to the policy and procedures?
Right.
So that one.
But the CAO draft is essentially the person in charge of the policies. So he oversees them. I may write them, but he has to approve them and bring them to council for a couple of days. It just comes to council.
Heather, I got one going first.
And then
Okay.
I've just got one more here.
Just to ensure.
So, as you're probably aware, Turner Valley uses offsite storage for all of its documents. And so the offsite storage and disposal would be included in the policy and procedures, of course, because so the request from the town would come from the town to destroy documents. And then the certification would come back from the offsite storage people. Is there a plan to move those permanent records to offsite storage? And the reason I'm asking is because one of the reasons why Turner Valley moved to offsite storage was in case of flood, in case of fire, like the documents are in enclosed, safe, fire protected, moisture protected, where they are. And because I have worked for recently a municipality that lost all its records to fire. So, so that's why I'm asking that question. Will we be moving towards offsite storage for all the records? Well, the permanent records that Black Diamond now has should potentially go to offsite storage.
And that's a conversation that administration will be having.
Okay.
It was very high on my list of priorities, and I totally agree. As you know, I'm originally from Slave Lake, and we lost them down Hall in the fire, along with all of their records. Fortunately, they had been proactive and digitalized a lot of their records, so they didn't lose everything. And that's something that I would like to do here and have put in place so that if we do need to access any records, we do have them electronically. We don't have to pull the storage company and have them shipped. I had a request recently where I had to request some records be sent.
So that will be covered more so in procedures
That will be
and some.
policy.
Okay, because that will be an increased cost on offsite storage as well, so council's gonna have to keep that in mind. That's it for me.
Okay, Councilor Gordon.
Yeah, thanks for putting this together, Ms. Brown. Couple of things, as we get the policy together, I'd love to see that actually before we pass this bylaw, but I understand how current ones apply. Because it's VoIP and IT records and the access that our people throughout our staff have, I assume in the policy we'll have a part of that policy that speaks to browsing and how that is discouraged to do that under regulation. And that could be a disciplinary procedure involved should someone be found browsing personal content. Do you know if that's part of the current policy?
If I may, Sir Chair. In my experience, because I've done a lot of records management and SWIC management as well, there are records that you can actually protect so that certain individuals cannot access them. Most of the records we have are public documents, so we need to have them accessible by the public. However, we can still protect them from being changed in any way, shape, or form. I don't know about you, but I had a particular incident in one municipality where I had an individual try and change a bylaw. It was PDF'd and tried changing it. He was reported and things got a little ugly, but it's my intent to work with the rest of administration to get a records management system put into place so that everybody in every department understands what their roles and responsibilities are. So currently we have no IT security policies in place per se. I think it's very important to have those in place just so that all of our staff and council included are aware of what your responsibilities for the protection of information.
Yeah, and that's why I asked that, because it definitely, regulation, I guess, in a nutshell, it's need to know. And if you don't need to know, you shouldn't be looking. So that's good to hear, and I hope that our policy does identify that.
Yes.
Another just 4.2B, A uses the phrase no longer serve valid purpose, and there's just a minor typo. Instead of the word serve, it's sever in 4.2B. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and you're.
I'm good. I just want to know what council's thoughts on, because kind of picking up on what Ms. Thompson has said, not seeing what the policy and procedures will be like, how these are really aligned. Are we good to move forward with this bylaw, knowing that they reflect on past policy and procedures, or should we wait to see all these and review them together? I'm not sure where we're at on that.
Well, okay, I'll go with it. I get you. Lisa, go ahead.
Our current records management policy and procedures are quite solid, and a lot of what we will be presenting will be based on a lot of that information and be quite similar. It'll just be updated to basically address electronic forms of documents and formats.
Thank you.
Just in 3.1, it talks about a classification and retention schedule, and then it talks in mentions and see the records management policy and procedure. So I say you bring back policy procedures, but where does this classification and retention schedule, is that the same thing or in the same document, or are they different documents?
No, that's correct. The current policy has a retention and disposition schedule in it, and the new policy will reflect the same information.
So that will all be
Yeah.
classification retention schedule.
Correct.
It's just scheduled within.
Correct. And it's pretty standard in all municipalities. Municipal affairs is quite clear on how they would like to see that set up for municipalities, so we will follow that.
Councillor Thompson.
So that the MGA has got that schedule, or municipal affairs has got those guidelines and schedules, and I know because I've been working on it. It has been updated, so
Yes.
we weren't aware it's been updated.
No, and as I said, our current one is sufficient, but the new one will be with the updated versions.
Great, thank you.
All right. Everyone comfortable? I believe we have a motion on the floor. Motion here. Here we go. Okay. First reading. Seeing none. All in favor? No, that one was carried. Deputy Mayor.
The council agreed to give second reading to records management bylaw 2023-10. I will reiterate Councillor Gordon's point. I'm not sure if we want to continue or not, but this motion's on the floor.
Excellent. All comments that I'm comfortable with going with two, and then we can wait to see it again. I don't think it's anything pressing, although I do feel quite confident that what we have in place is fine, but I'll be a Gary Rat and say, you know what? We'll take a third one on this one. Okay?
I'll be unlike you, Robin, and that's the same property. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm fine giving this all three. I think we've read it. We don't need to read it again on another agenda. It's housekeeping. The schedules they've shaken are going to be similar to what we've had, so I say we've done our part.
Sean. While we give it a second, let's go. Second reading, any comments? All in favor? Okay. Want to go further here? Heather?
The council agreed to hear third reading to records management bylaw 2023-10 at this meeting.
Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously, so we'll move on to third. I believe third one will take Jonathan.
That council give third and final reading to the records management bylaw 2023-10.
Thank you. City Wait Count. Good for you.
Our agenda packages are long enough.
True enough.
Work is.
Yeah. Okay. And there we go. Thank you. And that is carried. All right. Excellent. Good debate. Good questions. Good work. Thank you. Bylaw. Or sorry, 7.2 as -3, bylaw 2023-14, procedure bylaw. And this one we have gone over a few times now. We've had that committee of the whole. We've beaten it around. I'd say if anything has gotten beaten up, this one has gotten beaten up. So I'll be interested if someone wants to change anything today. Jonathan?
I do have a question because I think there's been some miscommunication. Picking up on 10.2,
Okay.
where Heather had brought this forward at our committee of the whole recently, where the second sentence says no member shall speak for longer than 5 consecutive minutes and may only speak once to any motion. I thought that we had said twice, because we've already done that tonight. We've spoken more than once to the last motion with the motion on the table. So did we, Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, did you not say at the committee of the whole that you wanted to see that twice, any motion?
Well, we kind of talked about that you could actually speak to it before motion's on the table, and then when the motion's on the table, you only get to speak to it once. So you can ask questions before the motion gets put on the table. And then when the motion's on the table, you can speak to it once.
Yeah, so if we just use the previous motions on the table for first reading, more than one of us spoke twice. So it's very difficult to follow through with that. So I'm just wondering, my understanding from the CAL is that we would speak twice on a motion, but I'll acquiesce to the rest of the council.
If I could. As chair, I never refuse someone to speak twice. And I can only speak, that's how I'm chair. I think everyone has to speak. Now, if it was to say something, just remove the once to a motion and leave that 5 consecutive minutes. Like you can't speak for 5 minutes straight. I know you could, but you know what I mean? Because that's the whole point of being here, is to beat it around and to debate it and look for those values. So if we were just to remove the may only speak once to any motion and leave it at for 5 consecutive minutes, any chair is going to go back and forth for a little bit, but rarely are you going to go further than twice. You know, if Cindy's dragging a point and she says, I'm in the sand, well, you can jump up against it once, twice, no sense going third time if you're not moving. Heather.
That's the issue. We get on the juggle wheel sometimes and some people are speaking 4 or 5 times.
So I think the
So-
chair has to crack down on that and say, have you got anything new to add? Because if you're gonna say the same thing again, we'll move on. So. Just talk about that. What do you think? I think it's up to the chair to make those determinations. That's what I'm saying. So I'm fine leaving it as is. And if it became a real problem, then you could go back to this and say, now you're crossing the line. During the show. So Cindy, do it.
I know in previous procedure bylaw in Turner Valley, it was that whoever moved it got to speak at the end as well, so we had some more, because oftentimes,
Oh, we're closing.
you know, you're the first one on the gate to make the motion, then you speak to it, and then a whole bunch of debate happens, and then you realize something, so I would just like to see it twice, simple across the board. I don't think anybody needs anything more than twice. Don't like once. Either I'd rather get rid of it altogether.
Okay. Thoughts? Let's just answer this question. Go for twice or remove it entirely and just leave the 5 minutes consecutive. And then it's the chair's job to take care of it. John.
I'd like to have it removed completely, but if we have to settle a number, I'd like twice. There's one main reason I do not like once. Depending on the chair, you can have somebody who has a personal issue with another counselor as a chair, and you can drop the hammer. You've spoken once and we're gonna shut you down. And I don't foresee our mayor doing this, but it's a hammer that I don't want to see in the bylaw, to be honest with you. So I would not want to maintain once. I'm dead set against once being written in the bylaw. That's an unnecessary hammer that doesn't need to be wielded.
All right, so let's just remove. Oh,
Yeah, no, I want to. I was just gonna say.
let's just remove the once and leave the 5 minutes. Heather, same.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Veronica? Good. Okay, so we're just gonna remove that last section and hit the period at consecutive 5 minutes, period. And may only speak once is kind of. And that, I'm hoping, closes the debate and puts a motion on the table. Motion on the table. Veronica?
I can give you a motion. Set 2.1K, just a double P.
Doesn't sound like a motion.
It actually,
Yes,
We have it.
it's clear up, it's just 25.
As amended.
Before she even makes it.
You are giving us first
The council give bylaw 2023-1 for the procedure bylaw first
as amended.
as amended.
You. That's it.
What's being amended?
Just
Like,
that sentence is gone.
Oh,
And
but
the,
not the P thing?
and the extra P.
Just wanted to go back to the motion.
There you go. Okay. That's Heather.
Could I just put a friendly amendment to that? If you could just say that section can
Oh,
be amended
Section 10.2.
Yes.
by removing,
The last.
and may only speak once to any motion.
Yes, that's correct. That's the correct approach.
Well done.
Friendly amendment.
excellent. All right, there we have it. Any further? All in favor? Excellent, thank you. All right, I'll take second there, Deputy Mayor.
Sure. The council give bylaw 2023-14 second reading.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Anybody? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. And I will give the council here, agree to hear bylaw 2023-14 for third reading at this time. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously as required. And Deputy Mayor. Mr. Hall.
The council agreed to give bylaw 2023 third and final, -14 third and final.
Okay. All right, final chance. All in favor? And that is good. Yep. All right. Moving on to 8.1 action items. Pool liner and bottom intake. And therein lies the action.
Get rid of it.
All right. We've got Mr. Beaton here in charge of Public Works and Facilities. LeBlanc. So, do you want to just jump in there? Frank?
I will jump in there. Thank you, Mayor Crane and councilors, through the chair. So the purpose of this request for decision is around the pool liner and the bottom intake. This is about through Landers pool. Previously, with the Turner Valley Council, they approved funding to replace the vinyl pool liner and the bottom intake in August of 2022. And unfortunately, we've put that up to tender, and unfortunately the proposed quotes came in significantly higher than we anticipated. I must admit that I grossly underestimated the inflation value of vinyl, and we had approved funding for $150,000. We have that money approved to us through MSI, and the lowest quotes that we received came at $250,000. So I'm here to ask council to increase our funding to an overall budget of $250,000, which will be funded through the MSI grant, so that we can continue and finish off the start the project for replacing the pool vinyl liner and the bottom intake.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Councilor Holiday then a little bit.
What kind of warranty are they giving you on this? I choke at the cost of vinyl.
It's a 5-year manufacturer warranty. We can pay an additional, I think they want another $10,000 to make it a 10-year warranty. But I'm not sure that that's necessary at this point. But yes, it's a 5-year manufacturer warranty.
Engineer.
Okay, got a couple. Outside of the warranty, how long typically is the liner good for? Ballpark.
So that's always dependent on your water quality and the UV exposure, but in this scenario, approximately 10 to 12 years. 10 to 12 years.
And if we were to go ahead with the approval, would we be missing swim time this spring, this summer? When would the anticipated liner be put in?
The anticipated completion of project would be no later than June 26th.
June 26th.
That's
Can I get some history in terms of how long, when do you guys typically open?
June 9th is when we typically.
It used to be May 2-4 weekend, but then weather every May 2-4 weekend was so atrocious. We looked at it and said, you know, how much can we save? And we ended up with a budget savings by bumping it into August or into June. So we followed through on that for the last 2 years now. And this is the 3rd year with Okotoks running the cruise as well. So I'm going to let council, I'll have a go first before I comment. I got Jonathan and Hayden.
Yeah, that's it for me. Okay, thank you very much.
Councilor Gordon and Councilor.
Yeah, I know we're going to deal with this a little bit later with some information correspondence from our municipal affairs minister. Remind me now, is this an operating fund request or out of the capital budget? It's capital, is it? So the MSI, as far as operating, is going to be doubled for 23-24 with the budget. And I know they've increased the capital funding. They haven't quite said exactly how much in that letter. But, you know, with the fact that this is such an attraction to our community, I really think that this is something that we need to consider. I like hearing June 26th as a target date for that. So And inflation, that's just reality of doing business right now. It's
True. Councilor Martin.
This may be a question for a minute. The town of Okotoks, does that change any of their contracts? Like, was their start date, can you push their start date back?
Mayor Crane, thank you for your questions, Councilor. To my knowledge, it should not, but at the moment, I guess we were hoping it could be a little bit more optimistic and feel great. But at the moment, they're still dedicated to this particular program.
Councilor Thompson. And then
Distracted.
I've got another one, so I can ask for replace.
I'll go to Sean and then I'll come back to you.
Just as an FYI, our allotment for MSI in
Remember.
2023, 624,000 and our operating is 124. I also want to add that we were actually late last year opening the tool as well, dealing with the challenges with AHS and trying to meet the volume turnover requirements. That's what we're doing.
Number. So we've been granted an extension, like this liner has to be replaced, correct? We've
That's
been given the
correct.
order.
Through the chair, Councilor Thompson. We have been given 4 years grace to date, with AHS finally putting their foot down this past summer, indicating that they will not allow another year of traveling issues with the bottom. And just for the record, the pool vinyl, the liner became part of this project when we tried to complete the bottom intake last year and found that because of the age of the current liner, no contractors wanted to touch the project because of the fear of damage to the liner, that they would not be able to put the project back together because the current liner is already
you.
So it's a matter of necessity, one level. The volume of water transfer, could you touch on that for the public so that they understand the other implication with AHS here?
Absolutely. So AHS requires for a pool to turn over the complete volume of its pool within a 6-hour period. There is a grace allotted or an extension time allotted to pools built pre-1992, which gives you a 2-hour additional period to turn over that pool volume to an 8-hour period. We can't meet the 6-hour volume turnover based on the limitations of our plumbing or mechanical systems. And we were challenged to just meet those turnover rates within about 5 minutes for the so we're also limited by the volume turnover rates required by HS. So as they become more strict in the future, we will unlikely be able to meet those requirements.
All right.
I'm struggling here because I gotta obviously state the obvious, but investing $250,000 in an asset that may not give us more than 4, like say worst case, we get 4 years out of this thing. AHS comes back and says, listen, this is the new flow rate. I'm just $250,000 is a lot of money. I just want to say it out loud. And that's what I was going to ask Craig was like, how long do we anticipate? But we don't have any idea. AHS could come to us next year after we put $2 million in and say, and it's like, I'm thinking I have the rink in the back of my head, and we throw the rink around so much because, it's going to be $1 million. It's so much money, and it is. It's a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
But when you look at what you get out of the rink for $1 million, the amount of people that go and use that, and then we're saying $250,000, and we don't have a projected timeline, I know this has to be done. I've got 2 kids under 6. We use the pool all summer long. But the rational part of me is really struggling with $250,000. So I just wanted to say it out loud.
I think totally valid. This, for me, rolls into that greater conversation of the recreational master plan. That regional thinking of what do we need, when do we do it? And I think we have to start that engagement like this year to start looking at a 5-year horizon to get that thing in place. So, sorry.
If I might, through the chair, with respect to pool and Alberta health regulations, I'm not with on this comment, but they're not. It's not an industry that is vibrant in changing their rules or regulations around certain aspects. They will constantly look to upgrading health and safety issues that sort of arise from just experience within the industry. But typically those are things that are more physical around the pool decks and access and egress from pools. When it comes to pool quality, because there are stringent requirements around maintaining water quality, we do have to send in samples every week. If we fall outside of any particular range, we're notified immediately, and if we're too far out, that shuts down. So we're very particular about following and abiding by those rules. We also have to check the pool quality several times a day to keep those records, and the AHS will do inspections. So when it comes to water quality, as long as we're showing our due diligence and we're consistently achieving those goals, I don't foresee an immediate change, but that doesn't mean that they won't. I don't know, I pretend to understand. We don't know how those changes. As far as facility considerations, I agree. I think this council would be wise to start considering what the future holds for that facility and what the engineers are engaging with the residents to see what. So.
Thank you. All right. I will say thank goodness for MSI, because we can do this using the overage from MSI. Great. So, can I get a motion on the floor?
Actually, can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
If I could, through the CA, I will direct this to Shereen. So when we're going through the budget process, are you going to let us know like the grants and what's left? And, we've got this allotment for 2023, but what's there, what didn't get used? Are you going to do that kind of thing during budget?
Yeah, so to address your question through the mayor, Councillor Thompson, absolutely, we'll go through that process. We, certainly from the Turner Valley side, we didn't have any real expensive capital program in 2022, largely because of the large capital project we did. So we used very minimal funds. So yeah, we'll go through that process when we start to look at our capital and determine what funds, grant funds we will use to fund our capital.
Thank you.
Yes. Excellent. I'll go.
Yeah, I just want to follow up with Brendan's thinking and just so the public understands. So if we were to say, no, we're not doing this pool intake, it would be shut down. How many years does it actually take to get the planning done, site infrastructure, build something? Is it like a 4 years, 6 year, 2-year project? Like what? Just going down that idea, how many years would this be done? Would you develop pool if we were just saying, no, we're not going to do it? And not that I'm in favor of that at the moment. I just wanted to see what it looks like.
Yeah, through the chair, Councillor Holloway. It's a great question. It's a difficult one to answer, but I think if council is dedicated to the process, I think that once you figure out what your residents want for a future facility and what that might look like, whether it's just a pool, indoor pool, outdoor pool, a larger recreation. Who knows what might come out of all of this. I think the steps will be pretty quick. But I think minimum 5 years is probably realistic, 5-8 years before we get a facility.
Just,
Yes.
it would be at least 8 years, maybe even 10. It took us that long to rebuild our curling rink. So, because, you know, you need fundraising, you have to have fundraising, you have to get community involvement, you have to go down those roads. Communities, even though we're doubled in size now that we're one, communities just cannot afford to do this without public input and fundraising. Yeah, we can try and get as many grants as we can, but we have to go down the route of fundraising for these kind of things. We'll never get it if we don't. So that the fundraising alone takes time.
Yeah, and I believe the shovel on the ground is 5 to 8 years.
Yes.
We can just go down the motion and I will speak to it after I get the motion.
Excellent.
That council approves $2,500 for the vinyl coal liner and water intake project to be funded from MSI. Oh shoot. I read that. The council approves $250,000 for the vinyl coal liner and water intake project to be funded from MSI grant. Thank you. Anyway, to recap what everyone said, let's gamble that this coal liner and everything makes it another 5 to 10 years. That would probably be wise to start those fundraising efforts. Get the public involved now.
I would even make the comment that, thank you for the motion. I think that we need to make this the straw and say, we will do this, but we will not invest further. Once this is done, it's done. The age of the pool is at its max. The next phase is to move on. So I think this gives us a clear target of what we need to start some groundwork on for the next 5 to 10 year window or horizon. And we need to make sure that this is it. This one liner, this is our 10-year window. So it sets a deadline for us to get moving and the community get the right project. So anyway, that's just a comment. Has nothing to do with motion. Motion is made to approve for the project on the side. Any further comment? All in favor? And excuse. Yes, comment.
Because we've talked about the recreation master plan, would it be appropriate to provide another motion to direct administration to provide us a cost estimate to completing a recreation master plan? It is related to the discussion we have. And our procedure bylaw does allow for that.
Okay, I'll go to Heather first.
Well, I kind of think we're preempting our strategic planning process.
That's
So,
fine.
because that is, so, no, not at this time.
That's fine.
It's definitely one of our pillars.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's move on. Request for proclamation, Purple Day. All right.
That on purpose.
No. Purple Day.
Where's Barney? He's got to be somewhere.
2 purples.
Why do I not have any whereas's?
Purple day.
You just have to announce.
Well, Purple Day, March 26th proclamation. Epilepsy is a neurological disorder characterized by recurring seizures that can significantly impact an individual's physical, psychological, and social well-being. 1 in 100 Albertans are currently living with a diagnosis of epilepsy. People of all ages, races, and backgrounds can develop epilepsy at any time in their lives. By learning about epilepsy and seizures first aid, we are better prepared to offer acceptance, understanding, and support for those impacted by epilepsy. The town of Diamond Valley commends the work of the Epilepsy Association of Calgary in raising awareness and understanding of epilepsy, reducing stigma, and empowering those who live with epilepsy policy to participate fully in their commitments. I, Mayor Barry Crane, the town of Diamond Valley, do hereby proclaim March 26th, 2023 as Purple Day in Diamond Valley. So. Now, we'll wear some purple on that day. Alrighty. That one is done. Number
There's
nine.
a recommendation in this.
Where?
Yeah. All that we're supposed to consider, I think their black diamond procedures are slightly different. But that it brings up the idea that we need to coordinate our request for proclamation request. I can do that.
Yeah, let's do that. Who's on that?
Well, no, no.
Well, you've already.
Yeah, old school, we get a proclamation, we proclaim it. That's it.
Yeah, that,
Okay, so
I
what's-
will give a motion that council, provide directions to administration to draft a Diamond Valley policy to address requests for proclamation. Requests for letters of support.
Is it? Any comments on that? Sounds like a good idea to me. All in favor? Oh,
All of those are.
okay. That's carried. All right, thank you.
Do you guys not stand up and read them in Turner Valley? Do you
What do you think? There's usually much more flair to it.
I was curious as to.
Yeah.
whether-
That's why I said there's no whereas. And yeah, usually it's much more fun.
Okay, I'll hold you to that standard.
Oh, I think you'll be
Okay.
well surprised when
Okay.
you do
Good.
get to enjoy one. Bert.
Can I ask a question?
After reading, yeah.
So the two policies are fairly different going forward. Is there a preference?
Simpler the better.
Shorter the better.
Absolutely, but so Turner Valley's existing, non-existing policy is just that the mayor proclaims it. Like, they don't even really need to come to council at that point. They could, they
You
should,
read it.
but they do. Black Diamond's required a motion of council to authorize the policy for the, sorry,
Which I like. I like that idea.
for that to go that way.
Minute.
Thank you very much. Mayor Crane, I'd just like to speak to this, as having been involved with FCSS for a number of years. We have a number of organizations that do request this for recognition and promotion. We're already doing that. But typically external agencies that bring out delivery services here while they are still accessible. And I don't want to dilute that service at all, but it does become something that can be a new occurrence and occasionally we miss them. So I would encourage council to consider really more robust defined policy around this. And I'd be happy to work with the administration and legislative services to ensure that that would be such so that you can indeed take a look and possibly assess it prior to declaring it.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah, let's do that.
Work together.
Okay. Do you, yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, and I really liked the addition of the requests for letters of support and some procedures around that. And being able to agree to sign letters of support via electronic means or authorize them via electronic means. Because sometimes the letter of support could be for a grant that's coming in that really needs got tight guidelines. So if we can address that in the policy, that would be great.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Craig. Exactly. This is something where often we have one big turnaround. If there's no commitment fiscally and financially by the town, but it is something where we're assisting a local organization that may have received that information late and now they're putting pressure on because they cannot submit unless they have letters. So we've been turning this around very quickly if there is no financial requirement.
Set that direction and burn out. You can
Yes,
pick
thank
one
you.
next brain for a few tidbits here and there.
Yep, thank you.
That'd be great. Excellent. That is carried. Okay, moving on to 9.1 committee minutes. We have landfill, Hazel. Take your motion and anything you want to add, fill us in if you feel the need. Council.
That was the first meeting I ever attended, and I also did a tour. I found it to be very interesting, and they have a lot of good programs there, so want players too.
Excellent, excellent.
So it's just for,
Just for information.
I make a motion to accept the landfill. Council commission.
Any questions from council on the minutes? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Diamond Valley Family and Community Support Services. January 16th, 23rd.
I can speak to these.
Yes, please.
So we've got a really good group put together, and it's been quite pleasant going through all these. So we have Diamond Valley FCSS has approved, all of their grant approvals have been done, and they've moved forward with them. So it was we got some different ones this year, which was kind of nice to see, and we worked together really well. So I was very pleased to be supporting many of these groups that came to us for funding.
Excellent. Nick, anything to add on the FCSS front, up and coming? Just because we're on FCSS.
I'll just make like you do a little bit of briefing, and I would like to also acknowledge one of our board members, staff team tasking us with today, and very pleased to have somebody of her caliber on the board. We've worked really well. We did lose a few along the way, but at the moment, I find that there's some very strong leadership. Tracy Fontana Wegman is the new chair, and she has strong background in leadership and chairing. So going forward, there are a couple of events to let you know about. You will be getting more details, but the volunteer appreciation event will be held again, similar to the same format as last year. And that's on April 20th. And then Seniors Week will be the first week in June. And again, more details will come out. But it's been a pleasure. Coordinator Susan Nagel is doing a fine job of supporting the board as it goes through some process and continuing to grow the program.
Thank you. All right, so regarding the minutes, Heather has spoke to a question.
Yeah, so a question I have is the fifth grant was given to the Diamond Valley Community Gardens. There was a post on Facebook regarding this where they were asking for some additional funding only because they're supported through our community support services. There's a comment made that they can't access certain grants because they receive funding through this. Can you confirm what barriers might be in place there? Yeah, there's some provincial grants they couldn't access because they were receiving this funding through our support services.
Yeah, to the chair, Councilor Gordon, thank you for the question. I'm not aware of provincial grants that they would not be signed to. What I think it is currently, and we are taking a look at this with operations manager and also recreation supervisor. And what it appears to be is that we delegated or we advised and set as policy that for the community support grant, if it was eligible for FCSS funding, which of course now has been paused and is now reviewed, then they weren't able to get the community support grant. My understanding though is that if you're not a nonprofit or an independent organization, then they no longer qualify for the provincial grants, because currently the Diamond Valley, which was formerly the Black Diamond Community Garden, was sitting as a committee or subcommittee of Parks and Recreation. So in Turner Valley, it was an independent organization whereby the town just supported their initiatives by providing land and some other things to help them carry forward. But my understanding now is that we're taking a look at it a little bit more closely so that they can run more at arm's length and have that independence. And I think that's what's implied, but I don't know. I didn't see the full.
It's very similar to that.
Yeah, we're certainly working with them, and we look forward to being able to provide them as much as we can.
Excellent. Thanks for the update. Councilor,
Just one question. Nick, I see that this Friday is for income tax. Will there be, like, it's fairly early March 17th, will there be another date?
Thank you, that's an excellent point, and through Chair, and I was forgotten about that, and I don't know why, because that's been on my mind all week.
I just saw it on the assignment.
Yeah, yes, so that'll be the first intake, but the other opportunity is for people to complete the paperwork, drop it off at one of the town offices, it's done anonymously, and then it's provided to a volunteer who then takes it away, completes it, and then just brings it to that. So I think that's usually enough to capture the rest of them. These are a pretty busy time. Most people, remember, these are very simple types of tax returns. So I think that the majority, in my experience in the past, will probably be taken care of. And we'll certainly assess, and I'll be speaking with Ms. Nagel to see if there's a need to have a second one. But it also depends on the availability and the capacity of the volunteers. So I'm never quite sure of that.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
The council agreed to accept the January 16th and January 2023 Diamond Valley Family and Community Support Services minutes as information.
Okay. Any further? All in favor? Thank you, that's carried. And I will give you a motion for West End Regional Services Commission for January 25th, 31, February 8th, and February 15th. A lot of that content was in camera, so I can't really divulge too much. But what I can tell you is we have been working diligently on West End. Sean? Maybe you got a better idea of what you can and can't say. I just know we've done a lot of really good work. So.
You're funny.
Just you go home.
Throw you under the bus. Throw you under the bus a little.
Didn't throw me under the bus, you see the bus on me. Yeah, we continue to work through challenges at West End to work towards completing the upgrade of the room, and timing isn't what we had anticipated originally, but we're doing our very best to ensure that it moves along at as quick a pace as we're allowed to move it along.
And on a good note, we did get lots of money from municipal affairs to go towards the project. So that was good. That's about it. So I can tell you for now. Motion to adopt the minutes as presented. All in favor? Excellent, thank you. And we now have 9.3 administrative inquiries and staff reports. I will throw another bus at you. And why don't you just give us your best CAO update that you can. For some reason, we don't have a CAO review. There's one on here. We want an update.
No, keep going.
You give them a call whenever you want. Gotta inform the public of what's happening, you know, Malcolm.
He gave us a pretty big update last
No,
week.
we did. That's my right, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, so we've sort of asked our management team to every second meeting provide a department report to council. I can give you a brief verbal update though. Obviously, I think still Ms. Middleton's department is working hard on completing an audit for both municipalities, as well as working on a budget plan and the budget itself, and dealing with the transition of staff from one building to another. Ms. LeBlanc is up to her eyeballs in a number of areas and still dealing with numerous transition issues, doing a great job of it. I think amalgamation is still a strong focus for us in the administrative side. Mr. Beaton's department is doing an incredibly good job of maintaining our roads during what tends to be a daily snowstorm. And we are getting a lot of accolades, in fact, on that. And so very happy with what's transpired there in the transition through the amalgamation. Planning is extremely busy. And we are entertaining a lot of very positive inquiries as we speak, very positive. And I would say that, yeah, we still have got some transitional issues to work out. And I know Ms. Middleton's hoping to get a budget in front of you, at least for a first version, on the April 5th meeting. Everyone in your office is working their tails off, and I'm very proud of all of them.
Excellent. That is brief. That's all I want, Brendan. Okay. You got it. All right, excellent. Thank you for that. We'll move on to 10.1 correspondence and information. We have municipal affairs, provincial budget 2023 letter. We have municipal affairs, MSI and CCGF allocations letter. We have a thank you letter from the Sheep River Health Trust for some funding, and I'm sure they'll be right back around for a little bit more money in no time at all. They are always fundraising, and they do good work. So I don't see why we wouldn't. Sheep Creek Arts Council, I actually didn't see theirs. Is it a thank you letter? What is it?
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
See, you gotta love it, right? It's the small thing, the small things. That's fantastic. Can I get a motion to accept all of those? Says there's no actions required. Councilor Gordon gives me that. He beats you to it.
You look right every time.
See, all in favor?
I didn't say it the first time because we got the first one. I'm just.
All right, and we will take a 5 minute. Oh, go ahead.
I just would like to make a comment actually on
Yeah,
that.
sure.
On that. It's interesting that the MSI funding actually went up a little bit this year. Of course, that is because we are in
Election, that's right. We'll take it. We'll take it.
We'll take it.
All the way to the bank. Cindy?
Well, and that they committed to matching with the Northern Provincial Revenue Plan. That's a sticking point. Municipalities, so
Yeah,
that was
nice to see.
They're very good at what they do, because you know that these numbers are far lower than they were 3 years ago. So
Yeah,
the province does fine work.
yeah.
It's good to see the breakdowns too.
So we're appreciative of all of it, correct?
Absolutely. We'll take it.
Yeah,
You taking part?
we are gonna take 5. We'll take a 5 minute recess, and then when we come back, we'll move into camera. I'll make a motion that we go into camera at 8 PM on the nose, 8:01 actually. For section 1724, all in favor? Thank you. For those people at home, we're gonna move into camera now. So we will be muting you out, and you can stick around online if you want.
We don't anticipate any motions.
Because I don't believe we're gonna have any motions coming in.
We shouldn't. It's just a personal update from us.
Yeah, yeah. You're feel free to stick around. We should be 10, 15 minutes in camera, and then we'll be back to public before we wrap up and adjourn the meeting. Thank you.